Hey players, this is the MC, and today on Reading Skyrim, I'm going to read The Exodus by Vaughan Yarth. Vrala was a little girl, beautiful and sweet-natured, beautiful and smart, beautiful and energetic. Everything that her parents had dreamed she would be. As perfect as she was, they could not help but have dreams for her. Her father, a bit of a social climber named Munthan, thought she would marry well, perhaps become a princess of the empire. Her mother, an insecure woman named Sinetta, thought she would reach greatness on her own, as a knight or sorceress. As much as they wanted the very best for their daughter, they argued about what her fate would be. But both were wrong. Instead of growing up, she grew very ill. The temples told them to give up hope. The Mage Guild told them that what afflicted Vrala was so rare, so deadly, that there was no cure. She was doomed to die, and soon. When the great institutions of the empire failed them, Munthan and Sinetta sought out the witches, the sorcerer hermits, and the other hidden, secret powers that lurk in the shadows of civilization. "I can only think of one place you can go," said an old herbalist they found in the most remote peaks of the Hrothgarian mountains. "The Mages Guild at Olinbaad." "But we have already been to the Mages Guild," protested Munthan. "They couldn't help us." "Go to Olinbaad," the herbalist insisted, "and tell no one that you're going there." It was not easy to find Olinbaad, as it did not appear on any modern map. In a bookseller's in Skyrim, however, they found it in a historical book of cartography from the Second Era. In the yellowed pages, there was Olinbaad, a city on an island in the northern coast, a day's sail in summertide from Winterhold. Bundling their pale daughter against the chill of the ocean wind, the couple set sail using the old map as their only guide. For nearly 2 days they were at sea, circling the same position, wondering if they were the victim of a cruel trick. And then they saw it. In the midst of crashing waves were twin crumbling statues framing the harbor, long-forgotten gods or heroes. The ships within were half-sunk, rotten shells along the docks. Munthan brought his ship in, and the three walked into the deserted island city. Caverns with broken windows, a plaza with a dried-up well, shattered palaces and fire-blackened tenements, barren shops, and abandoned stables, all desolate, all still, before the high keening ocean wind that whistled through the empty places. And gravestones. Every road and alley was lined and crossed again with memorials to the dead. Muntha and Sinetta looked at one another. The chill they felt had little to do with the wind. Then they looked at Vrala and continued on to their goal, the Mages Guild of Olinbaad. Candlelight glistened through the windows of the great dark building, but it brought them little relief to know that someone was alive in the island of death. They knocked on the door and steeled themselves against whatever horror they might face within. The door was opened by a rather plump, middle-aged Nord woman with frizzy blonde hair. Standing behind her, a meek-looking bald Nord, about her age, a shy teenage Breton couple, still very pimply and awkward, and a very old apple-cheeked Breton man who grinned with delight at the visitors. "Oh my goodness," said the Nord woman, all afluster. "I thought my ears must be fooling me when I heard the door a-knockin'. Come in, it's so cold." The three were ushered in the door, and they were relieved to find that the guild did not look abandoned in the least. It was well swept, well lit, and cheerfully decorated. The group fell into introductions. The inhabitants of the guild house in Olinbaad were two families, the Nords, Hjalmar and Netta, and the Bretons, Lywell, Rosalind, and old Winster. They were friendly and accommodating, immediately bringing some mulled wine and bread while Munthan and Sinetta explained to them what they were doing there and what the healers and herbalists had said about Rala. "So you see," said Sinetta tearfully, "we didn't think that we'd find a mage's guild in Olinveld, but now that we have, please, you're our last hope." The 5 strangers also had tears in their eyes. Netta wept particularly noisily. "Oh, you've been through too much, the Nord woman bawled. "Of course we'll help. Your little girl will be right as rain." "It is only fair to tell you," said Hjalmar more stoically, though he clearly was also touched by their tale. "This is a guild house, but we are not mages. We took this building because it was abandoned, and it serves our purposes since the Exodus. We are necromancers." "Necromancers," Sinetta quivered. "How could these nice people be anything so horrible?" "Yes, dear," Netta smiled, patting her hand. "I know. We have a bad reputation, I'm afraid. Never was very good. And now that well-meaning but foolish Arch Mage Hannibal Traven—" "May the Worm King eat his soul!" cried the old man, quite suddenly and very viciously. Now, Winster," said the teenage girl Rosalind, blushing and smiling at Sinetta apologetically. "I'm sorry about him. He usually is very sweet-natured." "Well, of course he's right. Manamarco will have the last say in the matter," Hjalmar said. "But right now, it's all very well awkward. When Traven officially banned the art, we had to go into hiding. The only other option was to abandon it altogether, and that's just foolish. Though there are many who have done that. Not many people know about Olinbaad anymore since Tiber Septim used it as his own personal graveyard," said Lywell. "Took us a week to find it again, but it's perfect for us. Lots of dead bodies, you know." "Lywell," Rosalind admonished him. "You're going to scare them." "Sorry." Lywell grinned sheepishly. "I don't care what you do here," said Munthan sternly. "I just want to know what you can do for my daughter." "Well," said Hjalmar with a shrug, "I guess we can make it so she doesn't die and is never sick again." Sinetta gasped. "Please, we'll give you everything we have." "Nonsense," said Netta, picking up Varla in her big beefy arms. "Oh, what a beautiful girl. Would you like to feel better, little sweetheart?" Varla nodded wearily. "You stay here," Hjalmar said. "Rosalind, I'm sure we have something better than bread to offer these nice folks." Netta started to carry Varla away, but Sinetta ran after her. "Wait, I'm coming too." "Oh, I'm sure you would, but it would ruin the spell, dear," Netta said. "Don't worry about a thing. We've done this dozens of times." Munthan put his arms around his wife, and she relented. Rosalind hurried off to the kitchen and brought some roast fowl and more mulled wine for them. They sat in silence and ate. Winster shuddered suddenly. "The little girl has died." "Oh!" Sinetta gasped. "What in Oblivion do you mean?" Muntha cried. "Winster, was that really necessary?" Lywell scolded the old man before turning to Munthan and Sinetta. "She had to die. Necromancy is not about curing that disease. It's about resurrection, total regeneration, transforming the whole body, not just the parts that aren't working now." Munthan stood up angrily. "If those maniacs kill her—" "They didn't," Rosalind snapped, her eyes now showing fire. "Your daughter was on her last breath when she came in here. Anyone could see that. I know this is hard, horrible even, but I won't have you call that sweet couple who are only trying to help you maniacs. Sinetta burst into tears. But she's going to live now, isn't she? Oh, yes, Lywell said, smiling broadly. Oh, thank you, thank you. Sinetta burst into tears. I don't know what we would have done. I know how you feel, said Rosalind, patting Winster's hand fondly. When I thought we were going to lose him, I was willing to do anything, just like you. Sinetta smiled. How old is your father? My son, Rosalind corrected her. He's 6. From the other room came a sound of tiny footsteps. Rala, go give your parents a big hug, said Hjalmar. Munthin and Sinetta turned, and the screaming began. Okay, well that was the Exodus. Quite a sad story, quite a terrifying story. Funny, nice necromancers, kind of weird. I think it's terrible that Olinbaad does not exist in the Skyrim game. It's a terrible, terrible missed opportunity. Oh, it actually does not. People have looked and people have questioned Bethesda about it, and it is not there. So sad. It sounds like an amazing, that island. Holy cow, I want to know more about that island. What the hell? Tiber Septum, what is that all about? You know, I want to know about this island. I want to go to this island. But alas, we cannot. So just briefly, the events in this book take place during the Oblivion game, and a decision was made. There's another book called The Black Arts on Trial, where a meeting was held at Cyrodiil at the Mages Guild, and people gave arguments as to whether or not necromancy should be banned, and it was banned. But as many things that are prohibitioned, yeah, it's still there. It's there in Oblivion, and I don't even think that it's outlawed in Skyrim. It's just very, very, very creepy and frowned upon, which is why you can slaughter necromancers all across Skyrim with abandon, and no one will say a thing about it. I love slaughtering necromancers. They always have really good alchemy supplies. Yeah, it's a good place to get some alchemy supplies. So, I will leave it at that. If you enjoyed that, please give me a like. That really does help my channel. And I will be reading The Black Arts on Trial, and maybe we can discuss a little more about the history of necromancy and such and so forth. So, until then, I hope that all your resurrections go well. And until later.